Hey guys, welcome back to UModeler. In this video, we're going to model a sci-fi door. This door is going to be completely made up. There is no reference. We're just kind of going in and using the tools. So in this case, what I did is I started with a loop tool, and then now I'm just deciding, hey, this is where the door opening is going to be. As you can see, I have a frame and I have the top part of the overall frame, and now I'm using the bevel tool to kind of go in and kind of start to make it look more sci-fi, right? Sci-fi's love to have those edges and lots of cuts and a lot of kind of technical looking things. And so in this case, for instance, I'm adding a light. I got rid of two of those polygons and combined them, and now I'm using the inset tool and then push pull tool to kind of create an opening for that light area. I'm adding some loops here now to kind of get an idea, because at the same time that I'm making this door, I'm kind of figuring things out, what works, what doesn't work. And this is kind of how, when you're modeling, this is a perspective that you would take, especially if you're just kind of going in and in a way sketching out your idea. Now, of course, having like reference art on the side is going to always be the most accurate, proper way to probably approach it. But as you can see in this case, I'm just kind of going in and just having fun and sketching out some ideas. I've looked at some art ideas in terms of what sci-fi doors look like, but I'm not actually building anything here that looks like an actual image. I'm simply just saying, hey, this is what I think the door should look like, and so I'm just kind of going in and going for it. In this case, I'm using a host of different tools. I love the polyline tool. I'm using the polyline tool in this case to kind of carve out some additional details. I'm thinking of making some type of panel on this door, on the actual outer frame of the door. Now, as you can see, I'm just kind of moving around, just kind of getting a very vibe check with it. And so now I'm just continuously to kind of refine it and starting to add more details. As I said in the past, what you want to do usually when you're modeling, you kind of want to block out your idea and then just kind of start building on your idea a little bit at a time, because you're going to make changes as you go. So as you can see, I got rid of those panels and I made a decision. What if I just go ahead and use the polyline tool and actually build that panel directly into the outside frames of this object, as opposed to having those as a separate piece. And again, I'm using the square or the cube tool basically to kind of carve in those shapes so that later on I can use the push pull tool to kind of push it in. Now at this part, what I'm doing is deciding, oh, it would be kind of cool if we had like a floor area to kind of frame it up and to have that. And then it gives us a bit more options to kind of make it look more kind of sci-fi-ish. Again, kind of adding those edges, putting those bevels, things like that. Here I'm using the mirror tool here to kind of do some details, and then I'm going to use the mirror tool to mirror it over, and already it starts to kind of look technical or more detailed. And again, using the polyline tool, going in and just making those changes and adding those things. And in this case, I did a square, but then I'm going to use the points tool, and I'm just going to kind of add points to this, because what's great about this is that it gives you so much extra freedom, and there's no one way to do your 3D modeling. Everybody is going to approach it differently. And so I would always recommend you to just think about, when you're modeling, you want to make sure that you are being conscious about your decisions, but it's like a puzzle. Think about how you're approaching it, and you just kind of start to kind of decide, is this the way you want to do it? Is that the way you want to do it? And so now what I'm doing is just kind of playing with some of the tools. I'm going to create this little box here because I have an idea that some lights will come from this. I'm going to turn those into lights, and now I'm adding some more flourishes around the edges of it to kind of give it more thickness on this door to make it more interesting. All right, so now what we're doing is working on the door. We've already added some details to the overall model. Now it's time to do the same thing for the center part. This is the main part. So now I'm thinking, how will the door open? And so again, I just want to make sure that I'm using the polyline tool and then adding some of those nice edges, those angles, because sci-fi elements typically always have nice little cool angles there. So I definitely wanted to incorporate that into this door. Now, what you don't see here is I'm already thinking about, how is this door going to open? Is it one single door or is it multiple pieces? Now, in this case, what I've decided was there's going to be actually 4 different types of pieces here. You're going to have the top portion, you're going to have the bottom portion, and you're going to have the left and the right. And so you're going to see me as I'm trying to figure out the best way to approach separating this door. And so I started to come up with something, and here I'm using the inset tool. I want to start adding those details so that they show up. And as you can see here, I'm starting to realize, okay, maybe this is the best way to approach it. And so what I'm doing is starting to add some beveling and doing some extrusions and just kind of working through this. And now I'm using it and I'm separating different pieces. And so as you can see, I'm using the detach tool that UModeler has. And it's a great tool because you can detach an object by just selecting the faces and selecting detach. And it works really good. And so now I have those different pieces, and you'll see it start to form itself as I start to extrude these pieces out for each piece to have its own representation in the overall door itself. So once I actually get in there and start animating this door, I think the animation can look pretty cool, because when the player walks up to the door, it kind of opens up in different places and closes in different places. So I think that will be a very cool effect. And again, here I'm just using the extrude tool to kind of figure out the best way to make this look good and moving it back into place here. All right. And so now what I'm doing is adding just some more details to these different panels on the door. I'm using the circular tool to basically cut some panels information into that door, and at the same time at the top. All right, so now what we're doing is looking at the right side, and here I wanted to add something where the player would actually touch. So, or at least the idea that the player walks up and they hit a button on the door to open or to close it. So what this is like a control panel. And so what I'm doing is just kind of creating some type of control panel that kind of looks like it's going to have like a screen on it. And maybe once it's time to UV it, I'll use some textures to kind of have some type of UI elements built into this directly. And so what now I'm just using, again, all the same tools, beveling, the polyline tool, the square tool, the extrude, all of those things are going to be consistent, and you can just use that to build out your whole model. Makes it really easy. All right, so what I'm doing now is just kind of playing with some of the door pieces here. And as you can see, I'm just kind of moving them around and just wanted to get an idea as to how they're going to look once they're open or closed, and just to kind of get more of a visual sense as to what they're actually going to do. What I'm doing is setting the pivot points so the pivot points work properly. And so that would be kind of how the door would kind of look with it open. And once it closes, of course, I would just kind of move those back into position, and that's how it would work. That's pretty much straightforward with how that door would go. All right, so we're pretty much done modeling the door. This to me is a pretty good block out. I would say it's a little more than just a block out, actually. There's a lot of detail there. But now what I wanted to do is get more of another vibe check, I think, is where I wanted to add a little bit of color here. So I have about 3 colors. I'm going to use a blue, I'm going to use a red, and I'm going to use a white. The blue is kind of for the stylized, like the kind of neon bluish kind of color. And then I'm going to put white in these floodlights at the very bottom and at the very top. And then the last color is going to be for this button. And so for that area, and that's the control panel. Well, that's it for the quick sci-fi door model. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you all find it useful on your 3D modeling journey using UModeler X. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on all the new content. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video.